What's up, Dallas? It's your girl Rachel. I have another fabulous guest on my show, Mr. Billy Island. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing amazing. How about yourself, Rachel?
I'm just so thankful to be alive right now and woke up. You know,
Yeah, yeah, that's so
God is
good.
the great one of blessings. So I am anytime I wake up, I consider it a blessing.
Yes, yes, that's so true. Thank you for having me here on What's Up Dallas. What's up, Dallas? How you guys doing? Look forward to really engaging with you and um, you know, getting to know you and letting your audience actually get to know me as well.
Absolutely. So
Mhm.
I know I went to visit your church not too long ago. Tell me about your church and you pastoring there.
Our church is a unique model because it took birth out of a discipleship program. So we have a recovery center in South Dallas at 4419 Hamilton Avenue. We're right behind Fair Park. We have a recovery center. We started there February 26th, 2011.
Oh
And
wow.
so, yeah, so it's going on 13 years this month as we're interviewing now in February of 2024. And so we started there, and a lot of people that were coming in our home, we had a men's discipleship home, a Christian facility where we are discipling men out of addiction, out of life controlling situations, depression, mental anguish, alcoholism, homelessness. And so we began there, me and my wife, Helena Island, in February 26, 2011. And people would graduate or people would leave and they were having problems getting plugged into a church. And so
Mm,
we were like spiritually parenting them, raising them up in the Lord, teaching them, going hand over hand, walking side by side with them. And they would go home and they couldn't find a church that they could get plugged in with that was actually receptive of them and their background and their testimony. And so I know there's plenty of churches that do that, but they weren't finding them. And so
right.
in 2013, after about 2.5 years, in December 2013, me and my wife, we kept having people come back and they had failed out there because they hadn't found community. And we looked at each other like almost at the same time and says, man, we really need to open up a church to help them, their whole entire family, their children, and their spouses. And so we opened up a church December 22nd,
Mm,
2013, called the Well Community Church.
mhm.
And just to give a little background, actually, we just rebranded our name 2 years ago. Our recovery center was Outcry in the barrio of Dallas,
Uh-huh.
and our church was Metanoia Dallas. And so we rebranded our name in 2022. And so the Well Community Church has been open for 10 years now, and it's in the Pleasant Grove area, but we started in South Dallas.
Mhm.
In 2017, we purchased a building there in Lake June, 8353 Lake June Road. And so
Mm.
obviously we kept our recovery center right in Fair Park area, and then we purchased a building for our church in Pleasant Grove area of Dallas.
That's amazing, and what a blessing. Because I know that Dallas has a lot of need for that, especially for recovery,
Mhm.
because you can literally walk down the street and you see someone that's struggling with that. And people sometimes walk by, they're just like, "Oh, well, leave them alone. It's okay. They'll be fine." All that kind of stuff. But really they're not. They're really hurting. So the fact that you have this ministry out there for these men to rehabilitate, to get to know Christ, to walk away from their addictions, and then you have the church to help them gravitate to a community that's going to embrace them.
Yeah.
That is amazing. And I'm glad
Yeah.
to hear that story because that is something that Dallas definitely needs for sure.
Yeah. Well,
So,
thank you. Thank you. It's
mhm,
been definitely a journey. It's been a lot of fun.
mhm.
Yeah.
And I love your church. I know I went there for Gospel Ready's album release that he had, but I just really had the best time there. Like it's so cool. Like I walked in, you have the actual sanctuary area, and then behind it you have like the little kitchen, and then there's little side rooms and stuff where we did our interviews. and it was just a very welcoming place. So I wanted to tell you that I felt very welcome there. I had so much fun. Everybody was so nice.
Well, thank you so much. That's definitely the goal. We want to make sure that no matter if a person's a believer,
Mhm.
if someone's like straddling the fence and they're a skeptic, they may not be all the way in towards God and they're just like kind of questioning, or someone that has been following the Lord forever or just began their journey. We want them all to feel welcome. We want to accept people. We have a saying there: you don't have to believe to belong or behave to be loved. And so we want people to come and belong there, whether they believe in God or not. Obviously, the goal, we're church, is to get them saved, but we're willing to take that journey with them wherever they're at.
That's beautiful. And I know
Yeah,
also behind every pastor, there's a testimony. I want to hear your testimony.
yeah. Well, thank you, Rachel, for giving me the opportunity. Well, I'm actually a native of Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Um, Me and my mother, we actually moved from there, my two sisters, when I was 2 years old, because my mother was actually being beaten and cheated on by my father, actually, my biological father. And so we moved to Southern California. And when we moved to Southern California, I was raised there in my adolescent years as a toddler, as an adolescent, as a teenager, and I got involved in gangs. I had a real troubled, childhood as a teen. My mom began to do drugs, and I gained acceptance like through the gang life, the drug culture, and in the height of me being involved in gangs and drugs. Eventually, I started doing drugs and got addicted, and I went on a down spiral. Was incarcerated for 3 years in solitary confinement for 2.5 years of that 3 years, and I cried out to God while I was in jail. But while I was in the solitary confined room, I had to come to the end of myself and come to the conclusion of that it was me. I've been blaming so many people. I blame my mom because he was a drug addict. I blame my dad. He was a drug addict. I blame, my race. I'm black. I can't get an edge. And I was just being a victim. And in that solitary confined room, in that space, I came to the conclusion, you know what? You have been your own problem. You're the only common denominator. When all your problems exist, there's one person that's always there, and that's you. You're always there. You can't blame your mom, your dad. And I was doing it, and I got off of that. And I had an experience with God. I didn't know how to live though the Christian life.
Mhm.
All I knew was gang banging, selling dope, manipulating women. I mean, that's all I knew is
Mhm.
hustling. That's it. From 11 years old all the way to 26 years old, and
Mhm.
so I got out of TDCJ at 26 years old, and I still didn't know how to live. So I had an experience with God, and this is why I have a strong desire to have a discipleship program, because some people have had an experience with Jesus, but they don't know how to live for Jesus. And so
Right.
I went into this discipleship ministry, and I stayed there for 6 years. Now, I don't think everyone needs to be there 6 years. I was a trip though. So about the first year and a half was recovery for me. Like just
Mhm.
renewing my mind, revamping the way I think, the decisions I make, things I thought was correct wasn't correct. And they were teaching me with the word of God of what it looked like to be a Christian, and because I just didn't know. I was like a fifth generation drug addict, gang member, I mean, all my family, that's all they knew. And now it's weird because people will say like, "I never would have seen you doing that." I'm like, "Nah, bro, you wouldn't have wanted to see me in the '80s or the '90s." I'm gonna tell you that right now. Late '80s, early '90s, like in California too, it was like crazy at that time. Like people
Right.
made movies about stuff like that. I mean, it was crazy. And so, just go figure, fill in the blank. Everything that was going on out there, I was involved in, and so I got saved in jail. I went into this program and they taught me. So for about the first year and a half,
Mhm.
they were training me how to be a Christian. And then I decided that I felt like there was a call on my life. I said, man, I think God has called me to help people. Well, in that journey, I started going through an internship and a Bible training, discipleship, went to another level because now I'm going to be a minister and a pastor. So I went to Bible college and started studying theology and everything. And from there, I met a lady named Elena, my current wife. We got married in 2010. And so 2000, well, after we got married, I was always telling her I want to open up a ministry to help out people that suffer from drugs and alcohol. Well, she was a teacher at the time.
Hmm.
She was a special ed teacher.
Right.
Go figure. God was like preparing her for me, right? And so so she was a special ed teacher, and she resigned and said, "Hey, I want to go all the way in. I want to be supporting that. I think I got a call as well." And so in 2011, we partnered with some individuals, some businessmen, and you need to go down, Rachel, to see our facility. Brian's going to be here again in May with us. He comes about 2, 3 times a year. And we're going to have a outreach right outside in South Dallas to help out all the community. And it's going to be like crazy, right? And so we have a facility that's beautiful, about $1 million facility that some people just believed in our vision and they built it for the purpose of helping out the community in South Dallas. And so right now we got like 50 plus men that live in there that are being trained and discipled to go back and be fathers and husbands and grandparents and uncles and pastors. Some of them are called to do that as well. And so, so I had a 15-year addiction. 15 years involved in gangs, and then I met Jesus in jail, and then I went to a recovery center / discipleship program, went through 6 years of discipleship. The last 2.5 years, I was dating my wife at the same time, or at that time, my girlfriend, and then we got engaged and we got married, and then she resigned. And in 2011, we opened up our ministry in Dallas. Right in South Dallas. Hopefully that wasn't too much or too fast, or maybe
No,
the timeline's a little off, but you
no,
can
it's
question me
perfect.
anything.
It's
Yeah,
perfect. I was gonna ask you your Paul to Saul moments. And
yeah.
like how did that, because you said you had a strong, experience with God. So like, when he called you, like you felt it. So a lot of people don't understand the Paul to Saul moment. But can you tell our viewers, can you explain to them what that felt like, that strong calling that was on your life at that moment?
Well, thank you so much for letting me do that, because I want to clarify that while I was in this discipleship center, we always had like literal time where we prayed for like 45 minutes to an hour, like everyone. It's 80 men, about 30, 40 women, and we're on our knees praying. And so they would always be preaching about God has a purpose for your life. God did not create you to be a drug addict. And I'll ponder on it. I'm like, yeah, whatever. They just say that to everyone. And it was abroad because it was to everyone. But I had a personal experience. I was on my knees praying, and I was like, God, what do you want me to do? I know you didn't save me for nothing. I know you didn't save me just from something. I know you saved me to something. So it was a burning desire to actually know. I was hungry to know, why do you want me here? Why do I exist? I mean, I'm not dead. It seemed like I should have been dead. I'm not crazy. It seemed like I should have went crazy. A lot of people went crazy in the solitary confinement room.
Mm.
I mean, God, you must have something. So I was crying out. And I mean, God began to start telling me clearly, I want you to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ. I want you to reach people that were just like you, that were in gangs, that had single mothers, that had drug addict parents, that were, hopeless and mentally deranged or murderous.
Mhm.
And I began to start crying because I'm like, I had to start reminding God, I'm like, God, I barely got a GED. Come on. God,
Mm.
I'm not intelligent. I'm not smart at all. I'm not intelligent. How could you do this? And I had a moment like how Moses, like he was telling Moses, like, I'm going to be with you. It's not going to be you. He had to remind me how great he was. Well, actually, he was telling me, because at that time I didn't even know that he was that great, because I'm young in the Lord. I've probably been saved 4 or 5 months. And he began to start telling me that there's nothing impossible for him.
Mhm.
And that's the reason why he chose me, is because he wanted to choose me, because it would be a glorifying moment to him, not me.
Mhm.
Because everyone that knows me from the past, like people that I used to gangbang with and sell drugs, and when they see me, I don't have to testify. Like I introduced my wife, they testify for me. They're like, this dude right here. Oh
Mhm.
my God, he was a fool. He was crazy, man. Do you know who you married to? Like, and they start telling stories and stuff, and it just brings glory to God, because that moment with God and that experience I had with Him, you know, it seals the deal that no matter how tough it gets, no matter how difficult it gets, I reflect back on God. You're the one that called me. You
Yeah.
called me, and I'm reminded that God, you are the one going to do it through me.
Mhm.
It's not because I'm great. Yes, I like to learn, I like to read, I like to do things like that, but it's not because of me. It's all because of you. And that's experience was so overwhelming. I can remember it like it was yesterday, and I'm going to tell you that happened in 2004.
Mhm.
It was almost 20 years ago. In September 2004, I went into that recovery center slash discipleship home, and so yeah, I remember that like it was yesterday.
Wow. That's amazing. And, it's quite a testimony too, because you'd be like, I don't look like what I've been through. But this is not about me. It's about what God has done for me. And I think whenever people look at other people, especially when they see their lives change, um, they kind of think it's like the people around them that changed them, but it's not. Like, if you ever meet my husband, he is also a walking testimony too. I'll just let you know, he was 4 years sober before I met him. And God had to work through him already. He didn't even know Christ at that time, but it's like God was already working on him to prepare him for me as my husband, because I had already like experienced like an alcoholic husband and a drug addict husband, and then one that disappeared, and one that like I had already prayed for all this stuff to happen, but it's like God was already preparing him before we met. So I was like, God, I can't have somebody who is addicted to drugs anymore or alcohol. I don't want anybody that's going to leave me. I need somebody that's going to be consistent to work. I need somebody to love me and my kids and to go to church with me. So let me tell you, when I met him, he was the only person to go to church with me. The
Wow.
only person to ever join me, and from the first day I brought him to church, he has not left. And he
Thank
is,
you, Jesus.
oh my gosh, like you see him, and he's also like, a changed person, but a lot of people are just like, so what did your wife do to you? Like, you don't party no more, you don't hang out with everybody, you don't like, go out and stay out all night and stuff. He's like, it wasn't my wife that changed me, it was Jesus. Like,
Absolutely.
and everybody's just like, "No, I think it's your wife." Like, they can't really accept it, but he's like, "No, it was
Yeah,
Jesus." Like, when you find
yeah.
Jesus, you find that peace and that want to change. So, it's
So
like Paul
true.
says, "You die to yourself daily." You have to.
Yes.
And
Yes.
yes, and I just had to share that with you. It was really, really
No,
awesome, and I
thank
see
you.
that too.
Thank you for sharing that. That's a beautiful testimony. I love to hear it. I love to hear it. And it's beautiful how your husband know, well, no, it's not Rachel, it was Jesus. And that's so good to point back to him and know that that experience with him is what was the game changer. That was the game changer for me. Now I've been married 14 years in June. Never
Mhm,
thought in a million years I'd be married. Me and my wife, glory to God, we bought our second home just in 2022. We have a Marriage Moments podcast on YouTube. I have a leadership talk with Billy Island on podcast on YouTube. I have a book that I wrote called Principles.
mhm,
Some things never change. And so we have a marriage moment with you on YouTube. We have
mhm,
leaders leading through with
mhm,
Billy Island on YouTube, and now we're doing a church, and we've helped out. Glory to God, well over 12,500 men have been transformed through the power of Jesus Christ and experienced the Lord in our recovery center, and countless of families in our church in the last 10 years because we're very evangelistic. And so um, and you haven't asked me yet. We're launching a new church in Richardson March the 24th. So we're
oh,
excited about that.
wow.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
amazing. Well,
yeah,
look
we're
at God.
excited. Yeah, we're excited about that. Yeah. Again, all
Oh,
glory to Jesus. I'm so happy that I get front row seats to see men come into our space and women come into our space and get discipled and become pastors and fathers and business owners and entrepreneurs. I mean, it's just beautiful to just sit back and watch what God is doing.
I'm thankful for that y'all are that vessel for that to happen. I want to kind of talk to you because there are a lot of people out there that put a stigma on going to church and having to be perfect to come
Okay.
into church. I want to talk about this a little bit more because I don't think it's talked about enough. But, a lot of people are just like, I have to get myself clean. I have to get myself, perfect before I come to Jesus. And that's not at all how it is. Like, God wants you to come to him like broken like you are because, he can't heal you if you're not broken already. So, can you reiterate that, like talk about that to our viewers on why it is so important to not wait to just do it right when you're called?
Yeah, it's okay not to be okay. It's all right to have flaws, to have hurts, hangups, habits. Um, and when you come to the Lord, He knows you already. Now, people aren't God. I mean, you can't mistake people for God. And so the church, many times we've gotten a bad rep because people may have misrepresented God, but God accepts you exactly the way you are. And there are going to be imperfect people in the church as well. The
Mhm.
church is a perfect place for imperfect people. We come to church not because we're perfect. I mean, Jesus said it like this. It's not people who are healed that need a doctor, it's sick people. Sick people
Mhm.
need a doctor. And Jesus is the great physician. And so when you come to the Lord or when you come to church, you always want to know that you're coming for God first and foremost. Now don't get me wrong, you'll find a body of believers in a community there as well. You'll find people that love you and there are going to be some imperfect people just like you are. But
Mhm.
come to church just as you are. Don't worry about what anyone is thinking because God accepts you the way you are. And I know that many times we get legalism in church
Right.
where people begin to start thinking like, well, no, you got to change this, you got to change that. God has never said any of that. You come to him exactly the way you are. Now, don't get me wrong, he will start challenging you, and you will have a desire just out of love to change things. I like to put it
Mhm.
like this: love is my motivation to change. It's not God forcing me. It's my love towards him. You just come to him and when someone accepts you the way you are, it does something in your heart like, man, I want to know more about him. Like, wow. Like my wife, she accepts me and I accept her the way she is. But
Mhm.
there's things about me that it's not perfect. There's things about her that's not perfect, but love motivates me to change this because I know if I keep doing this, it'll hurt her. If I have that attitude, if I, speak with that in that tone, if I, make that facial expression that bothers her. So love motivates me to change. God doesn't ask you to change. He just wants to love on you. And when he
Mhm.
loves on you, then somewhere in there, I believe that you'll start loving back on him because you'll see that he accepts you exactly the way you are. So coming to church, just come to church just the way you are. I love our church. Our church is, we're all trained and we're discipled, and we have countless meetings. I have meetings after this interview with our team, with our hospitality team, with our pastor team. We always have this saying: when someone comes up, no matter what, they smell like marijuana, alcohol, cigarettes, if they smell like they haven't had a bath, we're going to hug them. We're going to love them. We're not going to treat them any different because this may be the day that they turn
Mhm.
their life over to the Lord. And we are not going to be judgmental and critical of anyone that walks through the door because we will not be the individuals that is going to be responsible for them not wanting to come to the Lord because we were so rude. So you don't have to believe to belong or behave to
Mm.
be loved. Yeah.
I love that. And the reason why I brought that up is because a lot of conversations that I have with people about going to church, they're just like, well, I was like, well, the church is not going to accept me the way I am. And I was like, well, first of all, if they don't accept you for coming to Christ, that's not really the church. So
Right.
that is people being judgmental, and that's not Christian at all.
Yeah,
Um,
I have a series on YouTube at the Well
mhm,
Community DFW, the Well Community Church DFW on YouTube. It's called Church Hurt. It's a
mhm,
five-part series talking about how people have been church hurt by the church, and it's not God. That's people. that's
Right.
people. That's not God. And you know, it is a tough thing. It's a real thing. People get church hurt.
Mhm.
So we definitely don't want people to walk away from God because of imperfect people in the church, you know, hurting them.
Exactly. And I
Yeah.
kind of feel like that really keeps a lot of people from coming to church because they think the church is the people. I mean, the church is the building that they're in and the people, but they gotta realize that those people are also broken too, and they really come to church to be closer to God. They wouldn't worry about what other people are thinking.
There you
So
go.
I had that experience. I got wounded at church because I was a single mom. I was divorcing for the second time. I had 4 kids. And, I just want to tell this to you because I don't think anybody else has really heard it. But I got hurt by a church too because they were judging me for being a single mom with 4 kids. Be like, what's wrong with her? Where's her husband? Why isn't he ever here? And I was really going through a hard time with an abusive husband at that time.
Yeah.
So I found my peace at coming to church. That was my getaway. That was where I could go where he wasn't going to be there. So when I started hearing people say that, I was like, well, why would my church start saying that kind of stuff? Why would they really hurt me? So I stopped going for a little while and I was like, I just don't feel welcome there. Like, I kept thinking people were just gonna judge me by being a single mom. But I ended up, like I said, meeting my husband now, and he started gravitating to church with me. And it's like through him, I started healing because I felt accepted through his love for me and our friendship that we had at that time. And, I was like, he's like, don't worry about it. He goes, because you're here at church, you're with God, and this is like the closest place. He goes, if you're going to worry about what other people think while you're at church, you're going to lose your connection with God.
Yeah.
And, and I was just like, wow. And I was like, I really needed to hear that.
That was so wise. That was so wise. I mean, I'm so grateful for your husband helping to walk with you because even though we need God, we do need people as well. And
Mhm.
I want to apologize on behalf of all churches and that church hurting you. Being a pastor, I just feel, uh, responsible for telling people, please forgive the church. And I'm sorry that you had to experience it in church because I love the church. I do, but I do know it's flawed at times. People are flawed.
Mhm.
And I'm glad that you bounced back. You didn't let that, you know, push you away from God. And thank God. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for trusting me to speak
Absolutely.
that. Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I love I love being at church. My husband is now a deacon, so
Wow.
we were actually called to do a church plant in Grand Prairie. So our church is Restoration Bible Fellowship, and my husband and I, we were actually at another church, and it's like we were waiting for God to call us to help and be utilized more. So we have a brand new church with like a food pantry and all that kind of stuff in Grand Prairie. And it's like every time we move somewhere, it's because God called us to. So our previous church, we were there for 7 years. We helped church plant and bring people in. Became a deacon through that church, and then God called us to help another church. So we're just like, okay, let's go for it. Let's do it. So we haven't stopped going since. We're constantly in the church all the time helping people. So thank God.
That's so good. So good. Thank you for your yes, you and your husband's yes, and surrendering and saying, I will, and keep listening to the Lord. That's it. Wherever he tells you to go, that's where you go. Yeah.
Absolutely. So we don't have very much time left on this interview, although I would love to sit down and talk to you in person, have some coffee, because I feel like this is a really great conversation that needs to continue. Can you tell our viewers your links to find your talk show and also the church link?
Okay. I would love for you to follow our church. It's the Well Community Church, DFW. That's on um, Facebook. That's on YouTube. That's on TikTok. That's on you know every platform. Thread. Also, you can follow me at Billy Island. I am Billy Island on Instagram and Billy Island on Facebook.
Mhm.
You can follow us on any platform, whether it's YouTube, any platform. And I'd love for you to download our app, the Well DFW app. It'll give you updates on what events we have going on. We always have events taking place. And then you can get my book on Amazon. It's called The Principles. Some Things Never Change. And then we have marriage moments on YouTube. Me and my wife, we do about a 30 to 45-minute talk just to enhance marriages, people that are thinking about getting married, people that are divorcees, we just want to bring, add value to people's marriage. And then my podcast, Leading Through, on YouTube, with Billy Island. And so we are really, really excited about you guys joining our community. We just want to add value to anyone in the Dallas area or abroad. I go speak in different churches and an overseer of many churches in Texas and in Chicago. And I thank you for having me, though. Thank you for having me, Rachel. And I would love to have a connection as well. I would love to connect again. And you said the great words, coffee. I love coffee. I'm a coffee drinker. But thank you for having me on your show, and interviewing me. It's a blessing. It's an honor. I always want to give all glory, all honor, and all praise to Jesus, because I know without him, I would be lost, and I definitely wouldn't be having a conversation with you about the Lord or anything else, for sure.
Same. I am so thankful for you, Billy. I'm just continuing to do what God has told me to do, which is breathe positivity in DFW. And if you have any events coming up, just shoot me over a flyer and I'll be happy to share them on my community page. On our What's Up Dallas, Facebook, or TikTok. We have Instagram too for all the watchers out there. We also have Spotify channel, What's Up
Oh,
Dallas
wow.
Magazine Show. I'm just bringing it. I'm bringing it. It's like that was a new venture for 2024, but I kind of want to. I want to have more inspirational guests. So, Billy, also, I'm going to ask you if you have somebody that you feel needs to let their testimony be spoken. On my channel, we do that as well. Recovering addicts. I have people who covering like domestic violence survivors, people who survived cancer, anybody that has testimony that you say, yeah, Rachel needs to talk to you. Let's do it. We'll make it happen.
Absolutely. I definitely got a few people in mind. So I'll keep you posted, and I will let you know about any events we have.
Sweet. All right. So I'm going to thank our viewers for watching. Please like, subscribe, share. Please follow the Well DFW Church. Also, Billy Island, you're a great guest. I just want to tell you, it's been a pleasure. And, we'll follow up with another conversation, I'm sure. So
All right.
thank you all for watching.
All right. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.